Hi there VC, it's Steve Whitty. It's Saturday morning, sun is coming out. Hope everyone's well, and yes, I'm doing another video. It's 4 videos on the trot. As I said earlier in the week, I'm trying to catch up on threads that have been going around, and today's no exception. This video is the VC quarantine tag that Dillon at Noble Records has set up. Now, if you all know Dillon, well, most of you will know him because he's got a chunk load of subscribers. He's very popular. He has got his own shop, so maybe I should subscribe to him myself. Actually, normal rules apply to the tag videos. 20 questions, and you just go through them. So, without further ado, let's start. And the first question is favourite record from your home state, county or city. And that is, after much deliberation, and despite its naming Black Sabbath as my favourite Birmingham act, my favourite album from Birmingham act is Hands of Revolution by Steel Pulse, released in 1978. This is a snapshot of what Britain was like in that time. Very difficult for Afro-Caribbeans. Most of them were quite big population were living in Handsworth, which is a part of Birmingham to the south. I'll never know quite where about it is on the map from where I am. And it all blew up in '85 with the riots. This is by far the best British reggae album. So you got songs like Handsworth Revolution, Ku Klux Klan, Soldiers Band Man, Prodigal Son. This is by far the most successful album. This was a top 20 album for them in the UK, and really made British reggae very more credible. Question 2: an album you'd highly recommend. Well, I'd highly recommend any album from this band, Public Service Broadcasting, and they're by far I think their best albums, The Race for Space, which came out 2015, and it's just absolute wonders. It's really like new prog. Yeah, it's regarded in prog circles. Here's a concept album about literally the race for space. So you got bonus. You got 2 covers for 1. So you've got here the moon landing, American flag on there, and if you sort of romanticise about the Yuri Gagarin and Sputnik satellite, Soyuz satellite, I can never know what there is. There you got the Soviet side as well. Question 3: a tip for a beginner. I would simply say, main tip would be actually set yourself a streaming account. For a price £10 a month, you've got access to all the music, and it's a good way of auditioning albums. Buying albums, particularly new albums, and even some second-hand albums, can be quite expensive, and it's quite expensive if you don't like it. So you can, you see an album, particularly if you're doing VC videos as well, you'll see a lot of stuff being shown. It's a lot of it will pique your curiosity, but you can't buy it all. So by just having a listen on streaming, so you stream music while you go to work and you commute to work. Whenever we start commuting back to work, it's a good way of picking up. Deciding whether I should buy it, because a physical copy, whether it be vinyl or CD, will sound infinitely better than it does on your headphones through your phone. And also another quick tip: if you're lucky enough to have a local record shop, support it. Get yourself known by the local proprietor. You go in regular, gets to know what you like, and they will recommend records to you, and they'll play it to you, and you might think, oh, actually that's worth sneaking out. Quite a lot that I've got have been recommendations. It's made me broaden my horizons a little bit. Question 4: a record that got you into deeper music. I'll really show you my first album I purchased, which is Electric Light Orchestra Feisty Music. I got this, I think it might be my 14th birthday. This is not the original copy. My original copy, which I got rid of years ago, was in green vinyl. Played it to death because it was the first album. I was mainly a 45, but brought singles, and that's because that's all my pocket money could stretch to. This was my outlet, you know, to get into more serious. It made me realise there's more to records than just 45s and singles. You know, some good album tracks on there as well. 5, an obscure record people might not know about. This album's by a band. Name of the band is a band called O, and the album is called O. And you're all probably looking and going to me, O. And this came out in 1974, and it's very much a product of its time. It only cost me £1, I think. Sort of blues, rock, whatever. The guy in the middle is a guy called Pix. He's very much his band. He wrote the songs. But you can see, you know, the look very much of its time. It's not a bad record, you know. It's not, but the reason it's obscure because it never sold much. So, it's question 6. A group you collect all of the albums or try to. No. And in the end, after much thought, it's going to end up having to be this lot, Beatles. I was very late to the Beatles. Our first physical product I brought was 1992, and I was 27, or 26. Yeah, it'd be 27. It was when they reissued Sgt. Pepper on CD. They did a remix. And then I only brought the compilations, the blue and the red and the blue albums, when they got issued on CD. But I didn't really buy any physical albums by the Beatles. I was aware of it, you know, but I never really seriously brought it. I might have picked up the odd CD when it was on offer. But when they did the vinyl collection, the Beatles vinyl collection 2017, that's when I started buying the albums. I collected all the series. And then I was told, well, you know what, with the Beatles, I kept hearing, you've got to have a mono copy. So with all the albums, I went and bought a mono copy of the albums, cheaply, not admittedly. I think the most expensive one I paid for was the White Album. But yeah, so in the end, it's going to have to be the Beatles. I got rock and roll. I got the original comp. Yeah, they're the band I've got the most albums of. Question 7. Band whose second album is better than the first. Again, after much deliberation. Roxy Music for Your Pleasure. By far better than the first. The first is a great album, but this is far better. And if you have seen my Roxy Music ranking video, this came out on top. So that's why that's my favourite second album. Right, because this is the second attempt at this video, because my nose was running and I could see it on the first attempt. Question 8 is show a random pick. I went left hand side first. I'll go here this time. And the album I'm showing, oh blimey, UFO Force It. Yes, what can I say? Yeah, it's their second album with Schenker. I was a big fan of UFO, actually. This is a Fame reissue. On here, Shoot Shoot, Let It Roll, Mother Mary, all staples of the live act. Question 9. What album have you listened to most in your life? Again, I had to get my thinking hat on this, and after much thought, probably ended up being this album, Back in Black, AC/DC. it's always been a go-to album. It's up there with my favourite albums of all time. I have had a cassette of this. I brought an original copy, which long went, worn out or broke. This, I've got the CD copy. And I've also got, when I brought the Bonfire box set, they had a CD, they did a remastered CD in there as well. So I've listened to this a lot. I wouldn't say I know it backwards or the back of my hand, but it's probably the one I've listened to the most. Question 10. Show an album with a crazy story. Well, it ain't a crazy story. It is Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Now, it's a well-known story. During the recording of the album, it was a fraught album to record. They had come off the peak of Dark Side of the Moon, and sort of like, I think they saw fame and it was starting to grate with them, and they didn't know what to do. But suddenly, out of the blue, into the studio, into Abbey Road, walks this overweight, balding man, and they're all looking. They said something rather familiar about this bloke, and then they realised it was Syd Barrett. Syd Barrett come in wanting to play, and he hung around for a day or two, and the whole thing sort of spooked the band. And particularly Richard Wright really got affected by it. He obviously was not the man that they knew. Suddenly this rather attractive looking man with the hair, sort of looking a bit like me, I suppose, but overweight and bald. And obviously, Shine On You Crazy Diamond sort of pinged up from that. It was used as inspiration. But yeah, so that's question 11. Question 10. Question 11. You're collecting peeves. I've got 3. Chain stores, HMV, in the UK, and I think it's we need to have your chain store to complement your smaller independents. But the big peeve I have, particularly the one in Birmingham, is they pack their crates that tight. It's very difficult to flick through the records, and if you're pulling them out, you pull it. I wonder if you're not damaging the records if you're putting them in too tight. We're told not to put our records too tight in our bin, in our racks. So, record fairs, vendors with no prices. That's just laziness, in my opinion. If you're going to spend the money to set up a table, you're going to want to shift some records. It's not cheap. Just to go, how much is that? And then to have somebody pick the phone up and go, that's just out of order. That's just out of order laziness. So I tend to give those people a wide stare. And then this one's more personal. You're probably aware I've sometimes looked after my local shop for Pete when he's away at festivals or wherever. And people that move, the bins are done for a reason. Genres, and then we do it in alphabetical order. Then people move records around. What they're not really appreciating is, in fact, it also acts as sort of his Discogs site as well. So I've spent many time in there helping Pete trying to find a record. He knows he's in the shop, but he's nowhere, and you're going through all the racks. You're thinking, where could it be? And lo and behold, it's in the totally different rack than it was originally put in. So yeah, that's a little bit of an individual peeve. Question 12: an album or genre people would be surprised to know you liked. My sister would be surprised. Well, when she found out, she couldn't stop laughing. The album is Kajagoogoo's White Feather. Now, this came out in 1983. Kajagoogoo was very much marketed for the pop market. My sister has not seen many bands. This was the first band she saw. She's not got many albums. She got a copy to this, so she played it to death. So I got to hate it because you didn't really like your sister's choice in music. And to be quite honest, there's the band. They were very pretty boys dressed up You know, had the bass player. You had Lamar, the singer. It looked like he got a dead parrot on his head. You got a bass player that apparently washed his hair in fabric conditioner or fabric softener. And then they sort of disappeared. The singer got sacked. The band wanted to be serious musicians. They changed the name to Kaja. Well, my sister always played this to death, so it got on my nerves. Within the shop, Pete had a collection. He said, "Oh God, my sister used to have that. Played it to death. Bloody hated it." And he goes, "There you go. You know, you can relive your youth. So this is how come I've ended up with a copy." And actually, on playing it afterwards, it's actually not that bad an album because the musicianship's actually quite good. That bass player that washed his hair in fabric conditioner is Nick Beggs, and he's a very respected bass player. Plays with Steve Hackett. In fact, Prog magazine, he always wins the Bass Player of the Year award. So, you know, you never judge a book by its cover, so to speak. Limahl still walks around touring, playing singing the Kajagoogoo songs and Never Ending Story, which he had a hit with, and he still wears a dead parrot on the top of his head. Question 13, a record from the year we're born. I could have gone for the obvious and I probably could have shown you. I was born in 1965, so I was already shown Rubber Soul. But I thought, I'll show you this. This is Unbelievable by Billy Stewart. Sort of like keyboards. It's on the Chess label. So it gives me a little bit of cred there. Question 14, show a 10-inch record. This is 10-inch single, Souvenir by OMD. Sort of an extended mix on this. I think there's part of the question is what do you think of 10-inch pressings? I couldn't really be bothered. As long as it plays, Question 15, show an interesting fact about an album or song. I'm going to show Moody Blues in Search of a Lost Chord. Primarily, if I go inside, you've got the Mike Pinder, Mellotrons, Justin Hayward playing Mellotron. Nobody else plays the Mellotron. Yeah. Now, the Mellotron was manufactured by a company called Streetley Electronics. It's all Streetley Electrics. Now, Streetley is in my hometown, Sutton Coldfield. It's about 5 or 6 miles other side, pushing towards Walsall. And I used to work not far from the original factory that used to manufacture this. The Mellotron, the problem with the Mellotron, great, if you know what it is, a keyboard, it sort of like activates tape loops. And it was very popular with the prog bands because it added extra layers, like orchestral layers. Moody Blues particularly loved it. And the only problem with it's a temperamental beast to take out on the road. It was forever breaking down. Now, Mike Pinder used to work at Street Electronics, so he got to know how it worked. And the fact that so if it broke down, Justin I they'd get Graham Edge to do a flute solo, or what? Ray Thomas to do a flute solo, and whatever band would play on. Well, Mike Pinder would be on the back of these Mellotron, getting the wire cutters out or whatever to fix it. And because of that, is probably why the Mellotron is so took off. Because if it by all accounts, because it never worked properly, it would never have. It would have been difficult to reproduce the studio sound. Question 16, show an album with an animal on the cover. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Tigers of Pantang. "17, show an album with crazy artwork. I showed this in my last video, but this is Electric Ladyland. This is a French pressing from the Barclay label. This is not the original pressing. In fact, if you go on and have a look what the original French pressing, it's really actually quite totally weird. No comparison to the original pressing or the later pressing that's UK and US. So that's that. 18, show a really good album that you can find cheap. If you like pop music, 70s pop music, any ABBA album, you'll find cheap. You'll find it in the charity shops. The charity shop I go in, there's always copies of ABBA albums there. Arrival, the album, any ABBA album, good pop music. Question 19: show an album with an acquired taste. Comedy albums can be that. I always said these are comedic geniuses, the Goons. However, it's got to be said that it's some of the humour is as dated. It wouldn't be acceptable now, particularly how Ray Ellington, who was provided the jazz in the second half of the show, the character was used, but it's of that time. Comedically, this is the birth of British comedy. Monty Python was inspired by this. Prince Charles was a big fan of the Goon Show. They had about 15-20 million people listen to the radio on a Sunday for this. Said Spike Milligan mad, but writing the scripts. And final, show your recent find. I showed it last week, but it's Journey's debut album from 1975. So there you go. That is my quarantine tag. All my questions answered for this quarantine tag. I hope that you enjoyed what I've shown you. If you're new to the channel, click on the subscribe button. More subscribers the merrier, as always. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Love the interaction. Again, big thank you to all those people that have done that, and those that have left comments as well. It's nice to know that the videos are appreciated. I know I've done a lot recently, and I think there can be a little bit of overkill, especially at this time. I'm pretty much caught up. I will do a video tomorrow, which I would plan to do. Then I'll leave it for a bit. That's the plan, unless you naughty lot start creating new threads. So wherever you get up to today, and I hope the sun stays shining. Enjoy the garden or wherever, or the walk. Keep spinning. Look after yourselves. Keep spinning. More importantly, keep on smiling.